If you desire to walk in alignment with your purpose, to live a life of joy, abundance, and fulfillment, you've come to the right place. This is Sarah Locke, and welcome to Purpose Unlocked. Today, I want to be giving a life update and discussing something that is very important to me, near and dear to my heart, and that is my fertility journey. I've gotten a lot of questions recently because we were able to get pregnant, which is really exciting, and we have this baby boy bundle of joy due in October, and we're just over the moon about it. But it was a struggle for us. It did take longer than what we had expected. And I have a lot of friends who have done different things from fertility treatments and IVF. And I'm getting a lot of questions as to what we used. And I think that those questions are very valid and they're fair because in this time, if you're someone going through the when is this going to happen for me, it can be really confusing. It can feel really lonely, and you also want to know what are the next steps that have worked for other people and what's going to work for me. So I want to talk about what that journey looked like for me personally and the things that I tried. And to be honest with you, I don't know what worked and what didn't work. So that's what's a little bit tricky and confusing about the whole thing, right? Because a lot of the time we don't know. So I'll go ahead and jump into it and just talk about what the journey looked like from beginning until right now. And so it was November of 2022 was when I came off of my birth control, which was a non-hormonal IUD called Paragard. The reason that I mention that is because if you are on birth control and you come off of it, if it's a hormonal birth control, like one that you take orally, a lot of the time these things can take a while to get out of your system. So I was told previously when I was on hormonal birth control that if you want to get pregnant, you might have to wait like 6 to 12 months from the time that you stop taking hormones. Now, I knew that I wanted a family eventually. At that time that I came off of hormonal birth control, I was planning on starting a family within about 2 years was my idea. That did not happen. If you know my story, you know that after that, I went through a really traumatic and messy divorce, unfortunately. And then at that point, I wasn't even sure if children was even in the cards for me. I didn't even know if this dream that I had my entire life was even going to happen. So sorry, I'm getting a little emotional because like this happening to me right now is just so incredibly exciting. And I am beyond grateful and beyond words. And so I was on a non-hormonal IUD birth control, which means that as soon as it comes out, you should technically be able to get pregnant right away is, again, what I was told. So that was in November of 2022. We were already legally married, but we didn't have our formal wedding celebration until that spring. So that was in April. So we were like, okay, we aren't using that birth control method anymore. However, and I made sure that I went on prenatal vitamins right away. So if you are trying to get pregnant, obviously you want to be on prenatals right away. This prevents things like spinal bifida and other things that the baby can get if you don't have the proper nutrients and all the vitamins that your baby needs to form all of its little baby parts. Again, I'm not a doctor, so this is the information I know. I'm just communicating all of this to the best of my abilities. So start a prenatal right away. That's what I've always been told. Actually, I was told if you really want to start trying, you should even start considering taking prenatals up to 6 months before the time that you want to conceive. So again, different strokes for different folks. I don't know how true this is as far as what timeline you should absolutely start taking prenatals. But if you're trying, take a prenatal vitamin. So it wasn't until the spring that we were like, okay, well, we still haven't gotten pregnant. It's now after the wedding. I was like, okay, if I'm like a little bit pregnant at that time, my dress is still going to fit. Like, obviously I wouldn't be drinking, but so needless to say, I wasn't pregnant at that time. Then we started taking a lot, by we, I mean me. I started taking a lot of other vitamins. So I was taking inositol, which is supposed to help with ovulation and making your period more regular. I was taking, I think it's called chasteberry or chasteberry, which is also just like another natural fertility supplement. I was taking CoQ10, which is supposed to, is that what it's called? Yeah. That's supposed to help with egg quality. So, and then of course the prenatal. And then on top of my other probiotics and things like that I take for my gut health. So I'm taking like all these vitamins. Like I look like a GNC store. So that was frustrating. What did actually help though was I did feel like the inositol, it did enhance my mood, which is actually one of the things that it is supposed to help with. So it's supposed to help with hormone balance. And again, that regular ovulation and making your cycle more regular. I did actually feel like it helped with that. So that was nice. And then I was someone who previously did have a very irregular cycle. That's actually one of the reasons that I stopped my vegan diet that I was on. I noticed that on the vegan diet, I was becoming less and less regular after about like 1 to 2 years of that eating style. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with being vegan. I really loved the way that it made me feel. However, with the fact that we wanted to conceive, I felt it was more responsible for me to start incorporating more animal products. Now, I didn't just jump right in and start eating a ton of meat, because after that period of time, you kind of develop like a taste aversion for it a little bit. So I was like, I can't just like start eating a ton of chicken, because I was never a big chicken person anyway. But I started eating a lot of organic eggs pretty regularly. So that's one of the things that I incorporated into my diet. And then I was slowly incorporating organic meats maybe a few times a week. So once I started doing all of that, the eggs and the inositol and all of those things, I did notice that starting in June, my period became way more regular. It became like clockwork, which throughout my life has not been a thing. So this was really exciting that I was like, okay, yeah, I'm finally on track. I know when I'm ovulating and like those types of things, which are important, right? If you're trying to conceive, especially knowing that you're ovulating regularly is really important, because you only get one chance a month to make this baby happen. So I was really excited for that. So starting in June, I was regular. Things were going good. I really had this like feeling in November of that year. So that's 2023. I had this feeling that I was pregnant, and I was like really excited about it. And it turns out I wasn't, obviously. So that was a bummer. And then you start having these things where you're like, oh, like we've been trying for a while. By that time, it had technically been a year, right, that I had been off the Paragard and that we had technically been trying. Now, they say that if you're trying, you should conceive in about 6 months. They also say every month after that, your chances are basically decreasing for if you're going to get pregnant or not. And then they say after a year of trying to conceive, they throw out the I word. So I didn't even use the I word. And if you're wondering what the heck is the I word, it's infertile. So infertility. And I was like, I am not even going to use that word. That word is not even going to come out of my mouth. Like, so I will say like, I'm struggling with my fertility. We're working on it, trying to figure it out. But I would never say that I was struggling with infertility. Just not a word that was going to come out of my mouth. I'm also someone who believes in the power of your words and the things that you say. So if you're manifesting every second of every day, whether you like it or not. So if you're saying things like my infertility, that's just not good for you to be putting out there, in my personal opinion. So I wasn't going to say that. But medically speaking, after a year of trying, you're deemed basically infertile, which is stupid and clearly not true, because there's a baby in there now. So after that year, I was also still playing the game of like, oh, well, I didn't start taking the vitamins until the spring, and I wasn't really regular until the summer. So really it hasn't been a full year. So I'm like, you know how we make excuses and we lie to ourselves and stuff. But it made me feel better. Okay, so if you gotta lie, you gotta lie. So that time came around, and we started considering doing, more extensive measures like Clomid and things like that. We had talked about it. I talked to my doctor about it. She said, yeah, come in October or November, and we'll discuss getting you on those types of fertility medications. My husband and I ultimately decided that we were going to wait a little bit, because we were like, okay, well, it's already the end of the year. Obviously, to be completely transparent and a little bit frugal, we were like, well, if we're going to start all of this craziness, we might as well start in the new year, have it start new on our insurance, you know what I mean? So we were like, let's wait a few months. He was still finishing up grad school anyway. And then we had our month-long trip planned to Florida, because my in-laws live down there. So we were like, all right, well, we have all of the holidays coming up. We have X, Y, and Z. We'll just wait until the new year. It's all good. So December comes around, and I miss my period. And I'm like, okay, well, I've been regular since June, right? I'm on the ball. So I took a few different pregnancy tests, and those were all negative. I skipped my period again in January, and I take more pregnancy tests, and those are all negative. So now I'm pissed. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I'm mad, because now not only am I not pregnant, obviously, because all these tests are negative, but I'm clearly not ovulating, which means I can't get pregnant naturally, even if I wanted to. So I'm infuriated. I'm like, I'm not that old. I'm in my early 30s. I take good care of myself. I work out. I'm taking enough vitamins to kill a horse, for God's sakes. I was livid. On top of that, I was having other issues that were clearly hormonal, in the lady areas that can happen, if your hormones are all crazy and out of whack. So that's super annoying. And again, I'm not ovulating, so I'm not getting pregnant. February comes around. I missed my period again. So during this time, also, we decided that we were going to move. We were like, okay, well, you know what? Let's start looking for a house. I don't even know. Oh, you know what? My realtor called me, and he was just saying yeah, well, now rates are high. Not as many people are buying, so the market's not as competitive. Have you thought about, and he knows that I like the whole real estate game. I think it's fun. Stressful, but fun. So he just kind of got my memory jogging of yeah, we really want to move to North Carolina. So my husband's like, I'm finishing grad school before we start our family, right? So we were like, okay, well, obviously we're going to have to go through fertility treatments. So before we start the fertility treatments, and after he finishes grad school, let's plan to move, because I've always wanted to live in North Carolina. This has been my dream. I'm living the dream. So we were like, all right, let's start looking for houses down south. So we were looking and planning on purchasing. So we're going through all of that. He's finishing grad school. We're closing on our house. All of this craziness is happening. And then February, so I also, because we had said, all right, once we move, we're going to start fertility treatments and we're going to make this baby, right? So I had a doctor's appointment scheduled with an OBGYN who works with people down here, like fertility clinics and stuff. They're in an area where there are fertility clinics. So we were like, okay, we're going to pick this person because they're right near the fertility clinic, blah, blah, blah. So I had a appointment to meet with them 3 days after we moved down here. So February comes. That's the end of February, beginning of March is when we were moving. And I missed my period yet again. I even remember going out to lunch with a close friend of mine, and I'm drinking a margarita because obviously I'm not pregnant, right? And I'm so sassy and bitter about it. And I told her, I'm like, well, whatever. I'm gonna go stop at, because we were by a Costco and they have cheap wine there. So I was like, I'm just gonna go to Costco. I'm gonna get some wine because I'm gonna I have to paint the fence before we leave, have to do all this housework. I was like, I'm just gonna have some wine and do my housework because obviously I can't get pregnant anyway. Clearly I'm not ovulating, blah, blah, blah. So I was complaining to her about it. I needed to vent, right? And technically, I must have been pregnant at that time, because that weekend is when I took the pregnancy test and it was positive. And I was shocked. And the only reason I even took the pregnancy test was because my boobs were hurting really bad. And sorry, this might be a little too much detail, but yeah, I was having period symptoms, and I was like, okay, finally, at least it's gonna be coming. Hopefully, I can get regular again, whatever. And then it just didn't. And I'm like, okay, well, I have a doctor's appointment next week. I'm just gonna take this pregnancy test to rule out pregnancy, because it's just weird that I'm having these symptoms and I'm still not getting my period, whatever. So I take the pregnancy test and it's positive. I am shocked. I hadn't even told my husband that I was going to take a pregnancy test, because I didn't think I was pregnant and I didn't want to get his hopes up. So yeah, I took it, and I remember staring at it, and like, you expect I should be like overjoyed, but I was in so much shock that my heart started pounding, and I was like, oh my gosh. So then I showed it to him, and he didn't believe it. He was like, no, and it was the pregnancy strips instead of the plastic sticks, again, because the strips are better for the environment and they're way cheaper. But we had one of the plastic sticks, so he, for some reason, thought that the stick would be more accurate. So then I used the stick, and that was also positive. So anyway, a week before we were supposed to move is when I found out that we were pregnant. And then I had to call the doctor and be like, so I was coming in to talk to you about fertility. Turns out I'm pregnant, blah, blah, blah. So that was pretty crazy. And the reason I say I can't tell you what it was that I did that helped the situation along, because obviously I didn't think I could get pregnant. I didn't think I was ovulating. I had tried a lot of other things, like I told you, all of the vitamins. I had also done, the organic eggs and meats and things like that. I have also been eliminating as many toxins out of my life as humanly possible, from changing my shampoo, body wash, toothpaste, face wash, lotions, deodorants. I'm wearing an all-natural aluminum-free deodorant. By all-natural deodorant, I literally mean rubbing alcohol. Like, I put rubbing alcohol in a spray bottle with a little bit of essential oil. I can't believe that actually works, but it's it's actually one of the few things that I found that completely eliminates the odor. You do have to reapply throughout the day. But anyway, so trying to eliminate as many toxins as possible, getting away from the aluminum, any endocrine disruptors, things that could interrupt or impact your hormones in a negative way. I was doing all of those things, but again, then I felt like I wasn't ovulating or getting my period. So I can't tell you what happened exactly, but all I can tell you is that it was God's divine timing. And I still have a hard time even believing that it happened that way. But I'm really grateful. And then we moved and we were getting settled in. And I want to say at around week 7 is everyone experiences pregnancy completely differently. So this was just my experience. A lot of people will experience nausea and morning sickness, and I luckily didn't have a lot of that. I did have some nausea, definitely some food aversion. I'm a very sensitive to smell type of person, so there's a lot of stuff that I can't smell, or I'm like, bleh. Luckily, I didn't have too much in the way of nausea or morning sickness at all. But I did have like extreme tiredness. So starting week 7 is when I was really, really tired. And I also started developing some hives on my belly. And I didn't think anything of it because I do have sensitive skin. So I was like, oh, okay, it's just like a teeny tiny rash type of thing. And then it just wasn't going away. And I forget what week it was, but it was like week 7 through 13 were terrible. No one warned me about the first trimester, but it's not a good time. So the whole first trimester, I'm covered in hives. I'm dealing with other lady issues that we won't get into. But if you've been pregnant or if you have lady issues, you know probably what I'm talking about. And it was awful. And I told my husband, like, I don't think that you're going to be able to trick me into doing this again. I didn't know how bad pregnancy was. And do I think pregnancy was going to, Like, do I think that it's easy? Did I think it was going to be a walk in the park? No. I realized that you're growing a human, but I also didn't think until you were like big belly waddling around that it was really, sucking the life out of you. But it does. So first trimester, 0 out of 10 on the recommendation scale. Don't recommend it. It totally sucks. Second trimester, though, it's like I've turned a new leaf. The hives are not as bad. I'm still itchy sometimes. Most of the hives have gone, pretty much all the hives have gone away. But yeah, I'm still itchy. I keep hydrocortisone cream on hand, so that has been helping. But yeah, second trimester, I've been getting some of my energy back. I still need a lot more sleep than I did before, but sleep is really good for you, and it's good for the baby. It actually even helps you with things like postpartum depression. So making sure that you and the baby are getting enough sleep, because it's literally sucking the life out of you to build the building blocks of its own body, right? And so yeah, second trimester, knock on wood, has been pretty good, pretty smooth sailing. And I feel like I'm now enjoying it. At first I was like, this is horrible. But now I've been able to give myself a lot more grace in terms of what I can and cannot do. That was one of the things that I struggled with really bad at first, because I'm building my own business and then not having the energy to do a lot of the things that I want to be doing, accomplishing what I want to do. My productivity was cut, I think saying in half is generous. It might have been even more than that. And that was really, really, really hard on me, just personally, like as a person, how I hold myself accountable and I hold myself to certain standards. That was really difficult. So if you're someone who has ever struggled with that, your productivity is not your worth. Okay. And I had to dig deep down and realize that and say, you know what, this is really hard. And it's just one of those things that I'm building a human, and I have to be really proud of myself for doing that. And I'm trying to do the best that I can. Luckily, most of my crazy cravings have gone down. I'm back to eating mostly healthy. The first trimester, I was like a cheese doodle addict. It was a problem. But now I'm back to my healthy eating schedule with the eggs and the avocados and all the things. I'm also trying to stay really active. So even though I can't do the crazy weightlifting sessions that I used to do every day with Mark, I still try to get to the gym with him a few times a week. I'll do about half of the amount of weightlifting that I used to, because I really do have to sit down between every set and like recatch my breath. And then on the off days, I'll either do something like cardio, like a spin class, or I go on long walks now. I feel like as long as I'm being active and I'm getting my steps in, I'm still feeling really good. I'm feeling mobile and active, and like I'm doing the right things. And then finally, also realizing that when you're pregnant, you're going to gain a lot of weight, and you're like, yeah, duh. But as someone who struggled with body dysmorphia a lot when I was younger, I've been able to heal from most of that as I've gotten older. And now, in the beginning, it was really hard because you kind of just feel really bloated, and you kind of just look really bloated. And it's weird because you don't look pregnant yet. And so that was a struggle. But now that I got my little baby bump going, and now that I'm gaining weight at a pretty consistent pace, which is shocking, because I don't feel like I'm definitely not eating for two. I think that that's a lie. That is a bill of goods that we were sold. That's not the case. You don't get to eat for two. You're lucky if you can eat as much as you normally eat, because for some reason you feel way fuller, way faster, because I think that they're just like taking up room in there that you used to have and now you don't. You don't get to eat for two and you still gain weight really fast, which has been impressive, honestly. And being able to again give myself grace and not think that, it's me getting fat or me not taking care of myself, and just breaking myself free of that mental barrier or chains that had me has been also really fun and really freeing. I had always feared that when I was pregnant, I was going to, not like my body. And I've felt like there have been days where that's been hard. There have been days where that's been the case. But for the most part, I love looking down and seeing my bump. Is it weird? Yeah, it's really weird. It's really weird to look down and see like a belly poking out, because I take good care of myself. I don't normally have a big belly sticking out. And so just to like see that, it's so strange, because you're like, there's a baby in there. So it's just been really cool and really fun. And this has just been a crazy journey. And I really pray that anyone who is wanting to be on this journey is going to get their dream sooner than later. And I understand what that struggle can feel like. And I understand that it's scary. And I'm really, really blessed that I didn't have to go through the fertility treatments that I thought we were going to have to go through. And for people that are, just stay strong and stay the course. I know so many women that have done it. They've wound up with beautiful, healthy babies. And I pray nothing but the absolute best for you and a healthy bundle of joy of your own. So if you're watching this, I greatly appreciate it. I appreciate your love and support. So I continue to send happy, healthy prayers for you and your family, especially if it's a growing family like mine. And I appreciate the same in return. So just keep me and my baby's health in your prayers. And if this has been helpful for you, or if you know someone that has been on their own fertility journey or they're struggling, I pray that this can just be a beacon of hope for people that have struggled. There is light at the end of the tunnel. This can absolutely happen for you too.
Thank you for the precious gift of your time. If you found this helpful, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share with someone you love. Until next time, count your blessings, love yourself, and stay fabulous.